Welcome back to another episode of Trash Talk. I'm Jon-Bernard. This is Nick. We're the Kairouz Brothers, giving you the what's on and what's happening in all of combat sports. Nick, we just come back from UFC Perth. Let's quickly just go over UFC Perth. How was it? How was it being there live at the RAC Arena?
Great arena. I mean, the blue wall is a bit, funny. You see a lot of tweets saying, the arena.
Threw people off.
Threw people off, but I think it's a really small arena. I didn't realize last year by how much of a small arena it is. I think they could add an extra 15,000 seats just on one of those walls there. But the atmosphere was good. I think people got around Dricus by the end of it. I think once he won, the crowd kind of turned. The South Africans kind of got up in the crowd.
Very respectful South African, but I think everyone got around the Aussies that were on the card. It was unfortunate what happened to Steve Erceg knocking out in the first round. Everyone was getting behind Tai Tuivasa, every punch that he threw.
Dan Hooker, the crowd was going mental. Great fight, and then on top of that, he did win. Whether it was a robbery or not, he did win the fight.
Fight of the night for Dan Hooker.
So I think it did get fight of the night from Dana White as well. So the crowd were behind Dan Hooker. They loved it. And I think he's shot back up into the top 5 now. So Dan Hooker, what a weekend.
Well, it was an upset. And on top of that, his antics in the octagon. The guy just, I love this shit. He's cut up. He was knocked down a couple of times, get back. That was the epitome of what the UFC was. And I think that's why Dana gave it fight of the night all the way from the US.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would have been nice if Dana gave it in person. I don't think he likes traveling to Perth. I know he's got the Contender Series on, but Dana...
No Joe Rogan, no Dana White.
Show some love to your Aussie fans. I mean, it's not the UFC without Joe Rogan and Dana White. At least until you retire, make the trip out.
And biggest highlight from Perth?
Steve Erceg getting knocked out. Kai Kara...
I didn't expect it.
I didn't expect it. So, Kai Kara getting that first round KO. Usually, flyweights, they don't knock each other out ever. So Kai Kara to knock out probably the biggest contender in the UFC flyweight division after his fight against Pantoja. Kai Kara's got himself a title fight right now.
My highlight was Dricus causing Adesanya to cry. I mean, that's the second person he's caused to cry now. We might get into that a little bit later, but again, I think that made the week so much more entertaining.
Well, I think the press conference...
Lead up to the press conference.
Press conferences are always, they need something to flare up Twitter, to, flare up the socials. And Adesanya crying, no one expected that. I know Strickland cried on a podcast, but this was actually crying in front of your opponent. I say he lost the fight right there. So that's when Israel lost the fight. And Dricus, that was, 2 for 2 now.
Well, Dricus du Plessis, after the win, has kept his receipts. He's gone at everyone who was saying he couldn't get it done. Steve Erceg called him a 6 out of 10 fighter. He returned the receipt, said you're a 6 out of 10. Put him on his Instagram story.
Well, didn't just put him on his Instagram story, put him getting knocked out on his Instagram story.
Yeah, pretty embarrassing. But then he also went at Brendan Schaub, who said this was going to be Izzy's weekend. Izzy's going to have a Hall of Fame career off the back of this. He said Brendan Schaub isn't even a has-been. He's a never-been. Okay, he shouldn't be talking about fights.
Which I think Brendan Schaub, who's always on Joe Rogan, is a constant contributor, someone who's in the UFC social media space. Dricus knew as soon as he won that fight, he was putting up that post going at Brendan Schaub. Call him a has-been and a never was. That's quite personal.
He sent a toast to Drake, said thank you, Drake, for betting on Israel Adesanya.
How much money did he have on him?
I think he had something around the vicinity of 450,000.
Yeah, that's a waste of money, Drake. I think Drake knew as soon as he put up that bet. Maybe gave a boost of confidence because Drake curse is running wild again.
He asked Darren Till for fighting advice and coaching advice because Darren Till said he'd happily coach.
Yeah, I think he said Dricus was going to lose his fight because of certain things that Adesanya would have the advantage on.
Yeah.
Dricus kept all his receipts.
Do you like this from Dricus? Not many fighters do this in defeat where they go at the people, the naysayers, after the fight. He's literally gone at every single person that said he couldn't win this fight and Adesanya was going to be way better.
Well, I definitely like it because if you're going to be a part of that social media space where you're active online, you're on Twitter, we've seen Bilal Muhammad do it. Mm-hmm. If you win that fight, that's the time to gloat. I mean, when else are you going to celebrate yourself? There's a difference between going at people personally and then going at yourself, promoting yourself. Floyd Mayweather does it all the time. I don't know if he did it on social media, but he did it in person and in press conferences. Dricus, go ahead whoever you want. If someone doubted you going into that fight, that's personal. If they didn't say you were going to win, that's personal. Brendan Schaub saying he's going to take Izzy for whatever reason, go at him. Say what you think and let him know why you won.
I'm going to say Dricus has become the best trash talker in MMA. It's the hands out. He's made 2 guys cry at the, leading into the fights, right? Strickland cried on the podcast. Adesanya cried at the press conference, right? Everything is unfazed him. He's this guy, he's very cool, he's calm. He says what he wants to say. He digs into all the rumors online, the fight rumors online, loves Loves it. I'm pretty sure he just copied MMA Guru's game plan going into trash talking.
Well, if you heard MMA Guru's YouTube before the press conference, he said, if I'm Drakus...
These are the things I would say.
These are the things I would say, and those were the exact things Drakus would say. Not that it takes a rocket scientist to come up with this material, because Izzy writes, plenty of material for himself, but Drakus did execute it.
But the thing with Drakus is he talks the talk and he's backed it up. And after backing it up now, he's even taken praise from people like Kamaru Usman. Israel Adesanya afterwards had to give his respect. He's now become, it's not the 3 African kings anymore with Francis Ngannou, Usman and Adesanya. It's now the 4 horsemen in Africa. Drakus has forced himself in to being, and he's taken that title, the first African, not born champion, but the...
born, bred, trained, everything.
The first real African champ.
One that's residing out of Africa.
And he's earned it. Full credit to him.
Yeah, I mean, he's... On the weekend especially, everyone had their doubts against him. Whether you said he beat Sean Strickland or not, he has come out now and won that fight, and then backed that up with a championship defense against one of the best middleweights of all time in Adesanya. Let's not forget who Adesanya is. Okay, he has lost his last 2 out of 3 fights. But going into those fights or before that, he's considered a Hall of Famer. Someone that's, had, I think he said 15 straight title fights or 12 straight title fights coming into this. So he's not someone that is a bum. And for Drakus to win in the fashion that he did, I think the commentator said that he was up 2-1 going into the third, going into the fourth. And then in that round, he got the finish. He got the submission. So yes, he's got a unique fighting style. It does look gassed, I think, past round 1. But he somehow makes it work and he wins. So you can't go against someone that's winning.
And that's what other fighters have pointed out to after this main event over in Perth, was that if it's messy, but he makes it work, he always finds a way to win. Robert Whittaker said his style is so awkward. He punches coming forward like he's trying to get his lunch money, right? And then you got Brendan Sharp, who acknowledged, is he the best wrestler in the ring? No. Is he the best striker in the ring? No. But can he find a way to win? And does he make it messy? And is he tough? 100% yes. And he always does that. I mean, Usman came out and said, again, he's a tough fight. He's a tough fight for people, and no one can make sense of it. So he might not be the most technical fighter, but he's the best middleweight in the world right now.
And going forward, he's going to have his rematch against Sean Strickland. Dana White's basically said Sean Strickland is next in line.
Yeah.
Whether it happens in December, whether it happens next year, how do you see that fight going? Because Sean Strickland has come out and kind of said Izzy's a bum. He actually came out recently on the podcast and said Israel Adesanya isn't all that. I've sparred against people that he's versed and they were much better than him or equal to him, and he's beaten him. So Strickland is saying, he doesn't really give much respect to Drakus. He's come out before and said he won that fight back in Canada.
I know that. The way I see that fight going is, firstly, they need a location for it. They haven't picked a location.
Well, Strickland says it's going to be on US soil.
He wants it to be US soil. He wants it to be Las Vegas. They're talking about maybe taking a fight to South Africa, which Dana said they could do. You know what I mean? A South African.
Well, he said that Drakus has earned a card to be in South Africa.
100%. So it could be over there. I don't think Sean Strickland wants to go there. So they need to figure out where they're going to have it. If it's like in Las Vegas, it's great for Sean Strickland to have a home crowd behind him. But I feel sorry for the champ, for someone who keeps going into cards, an underdog with the crowd behind him, but he always seems to get it done. How I see that fight going, I think exactly like the first one. It's going to be an absolute scrap. They're going to both have awkward styles. Strickland's going to come forward, really push the pressure, and it's just going to be a slugfest. Again, maybe, you like to see Drakus utilize that wrestling. We haven't seen Strickland tested with the wrestle at all in the last 2 years.
Well, in the last 4 years, I think he's been taken down maybe maximum 6 times. It's mostly been DDP.
That might be a credit to his grappling. So, again, I want to see a slugfest again, and it's going to, who gets the better of each other in a scrap. It's going to be a scrap. It's as simple as that.
Going to the loser of that fight, the loser of the main event, Israel Adesanya.
Yeah.
In the octagon after the fight, he said he's not retiring. He's not fucking leaving. What do you see for him next? Because there's not many middleweight contenders that he could verse. Rob Whittaker's gone for the title. Khamzat's gone for the title. Sean Strickland's gone for the title. So where's that leave Izzy? Who does he verse?
He obviously needs to get back into being contender, Izzy. He needs to earn his way back to a shot for the middleweight title. I don't see him going up anytime soon. There could be some super fights that he might want to make happen. But like I said, he needs to get back in line. He either has to fight the loser of Khamzat and Whittaker, which I see happening. If you really want to prove yourself, go face Khamzat Chimaev. It's kind of an unknown in the division. We'll see what happens with Whittaker. But another Adesanya Whittaker on the cards.
Well, that's the problem. Because Adesanya was so dominant as a champion, looking beyond the top 3, Marvin Vettori, Jared Cannonier, and Robert Whittaker, he's already versed both of them. He's versed all of them, I think, twice. So unless you want an unwanted trilogy fight against these guys, it's very hard for Izzy to get a matchup. He can't really go up in weight because he's done that before and got demolished by Jan Blachowicz. So really, there's not much left for Adesanya to do. I think he's just got to hold out, maybe fight the loser of a championship fight and try and boost his stock. Don't try and rush back into it. Find the right fight for you to get back, because a lot of people said he didn't look that bad on the weekend. He actually looked pretty good. He looked like he was in the best shape of his life. So just, I don't know.
He said it was just, it was one error there in the wrestling.
He slipped.
Yeah. Also the slip, he wasn't pointing to go down and do the Max Holloway fight. He did slip. But I think there are some contenders. There's Ikram Alaskerov, who went down to Robert Whittaker.
That Russian-French guy that's come up the rankings. He's probably versed in.
There's Imavov.
Yeah, that's him. The
Imavov, who's lost to Strickland, but has also had a good showing against Cannonier, beat Cannonier as well. So, again, I think there's some options for Izzy at middleweight. He just needs to earn his title shot. He's saying, I'll be back. I'll be there. He feels like he can still go. Like I said, he's had that good of a reign in the UFC where I wouldn't be surprised if he does earn himself another title shot without really earning it as well.
Well, what about a rematch against Paulo Costa? How does that work? Do you reckon that because they're both on a bit of a losing streak?
They need a win. Both need a win. That's
the other thing is they both become boring fighters. So I don't know.
And they're both rumored to be on some sort of secret juice.
The last year, 2 years, they've both kind of fallen off to what they previously were, 2019, 2020. So I think it'd be a good comeback fight, but they both got to put on a show. If they put on a boring fight, see you later.
Well, let's talk someone close to our hearts. The Western Sydney boy, Taito Ivasa. Okay. Going into this fight, Nick, we didn't pick Rosenstruik. We just said he was going to be a bit too technical. When he closed the distance, he was going to pick his times, and that's what he did.
And we've spoken to other heavyweights who have given praise to Taito Ivasa, but they've just said Cannonier's a bit more of a better striker, a bit more, what do you say, accurate with his strike.
He was, but like you said, Dan Cormier, people, a lot of other heavyweights, Tom Aspinall, they love Tai. He's a character. They love having him in the heavyweight division. But is Taito Ivasa becoming the Tony Ferguson of the heavyweight division?
Yes, by the terms of his losing streak, he's becoming Tony Ferguson.
Well, yeah, he's 5-0 right now. I mean, 0-5. Well, he's 0-5 right now.
But the thing is, though, I think it's quite disrespectful to Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson, in his prime, was on, I think, a 12-fight win streak.
Rumored to fight Khabib.
He was the interim champion. He just couldn't get a fight against Khabib.
Yeah.
Taito Ivasa, yes, he was on a 4-fight win streak. He was versus Cyril Gane. But was he really that good? I would say no. And I think he's being found out now with this losing streak. His first heavyweights from Alexander Volkov now to Rosenstruik. And he just hasn't measured up to that type of competition. He's fallen off. And, Tony Ferguson's biggest downfall was his age. Age just caught up to him. And now he's trying to capture that win at this, older age. Taito Ivasa is still in his early 30s. This is usually the prime for UFC fighters. And he's losing.
Well, he put out on his Instagram, listen, it's tough for him taking these losses right now, but he gets up and goes again. Thanks for sticking with him. But it's getting to a point where I think he's treading on I know we need our Australian fighters, and we come and have cards here in Australia, and we need him on cards. But it's getting to the point where you lose another 1 or 2 fights, you're cut from the UFC.
Well, I thought after this fight, really, he would be done. Because once you lose 5 fights in the UFC against someone who's outside the top 10, Rosenstruik was ranked 12 coming into this fight. Taito Ivasa is no longer a ranked fighter. I haven't looked at the official rankings for heavyweight yet, but I'd be surprised if he's in the rankings. I wouldn't cut him just yet. I know they're rumoured to have a card in Sydney, and that's where you would want Taito Ivasa to be fighting. Yeah. But they've got to set him. They've got to give him a layup. They've got to give him someone where he can get back in the winning books.
I think he's got to fight an unranked heavyweight, get back in the winning books, get that momentum, because, like I said, it always, in these last 4 fights, it's just been the case of he can't win this fight. We're just waiting for that one lucky shot. We're just waiting for that one shot where he can maybe catch someone. We can maybe catch Volkov, or he maybe catch Rosenstruik. But Rosenstruik was probably just too smart, kept his distance, and then countered what he needed to.
Strengths. I know the Taffer brothers, they're probably looking for a fight. Johnny Walker's brother that fought in Perth with that, controversial submission.
Called out the other Taffer brother.
So I think maybe, Taito Ivasa should maybe look at one of those, maybe those 3 for a fight. I think that would be something to do in Sydney in February. But it's not looking good. He is the Tony Ferguson by a losing record, but in terms of like total star and total legend, I don't think he's up there. I think it's disrespectful to say that.
I will say that he's becoming the Tony Ferguson of the heavyweight division. Again, if he loses 1 or 2 more, I think he's pretty much done. Fans are calling for it, and there's memes online of Ty saying what happened to it. He's literally become the Tony Ferguson.
Well, I think he just peaked too early. Like was a beneficiary of circumstance. When he did win those 4 fights in a row, it wasn't against class opponents. I think he did beat Derek Lewis, who is someone that is considered a good heavyweight.
And I think his striking isn't making up for his lacks in other areas.
Like, if he did look at the Cyril Gane fight, he did look really good for us, certain part of that fight. But since then, I don't know, maybe he just hit his peak and it's just a slow downfall, but it's sad to see the downfall.
Well, let's talk about some news that happened this week. Merab has taken to social media to show a cut above his eye. Now, this has got to be one of the dumbest moves of all time. You're going up against Sean O'Malley, who's one of the best strikers in the UFC. He's a sharpshooter, right? And you post your a pretty serious cut to your eye, which is a danger going into any fight.
Well, you post wait, I don't understand the point of posting this. If you're going to post it because you're pulling out, okay, you do the Charles Olivera, you got the cut above your eye, cut on your eye, you're pulling out of the fight. If you're posting it to say that you're going to be okay, you're just showing a weakness to your opponent. Why would you show your opponent at that point in time? I don't understand it.
Well, Dana White took to a press conference, said, our guys in the UFC are some of the dumbest people. Credit to boxing. No leaks come out of boxing. This guy's gone to social media to show off his cut for absolutely no reason. Like I said, you're going up against Sean O'Malley, who's going to take advantage of that straight away. He's going to split Merab open if this fight goes ahead within the first round, targeting that eye.
I'm assuming he's posted it because it's not that serious. If it was a very serious cut, maybe he would keep it under more wraps till he pulled out of the fight. If it's just a little, I mean, it looked bad. It did look bad. It looked like it's cut up pretty well, but he's probably
just such an easy target, that top of the left eye, top of the right eye. They're so easy, especially for a striker to go take advantage of. To know that now, you know, he's been cut sparring or whatever it is. Sean O'Malley and Tim Welch, they're going to be targeting that. These guys are smart. They're going to figure out ways to obviously counter punch there. And it's just dumb for Merab. And now it begs the question, does this fight even go forward? You saw Dana White was furious, saying we have some of the dumbest fighters. Why would he take to social media and post this? Now you're talking about who could potentially be a backup. And I think it goes to the number one contender. It goes to Umar.
But definitely. One of the Dagestani fighters who won in Abu Dhabi, and he's now putting himself in that title conversation. If Merab does pull out, it's a simple sub-in. That's a very good... They're similar fighters. I think Sugar Sean wouldn't have too big of a problem with it.
I don't think it plays to the Mexican Independence Day thing.
I mean, neither does Merab, really. I mean, I know Merab's kind of done...
Merab's taken Mexican citizenship.
I know he's done a lot of, stuff with content creators in Mexico as well. But Merab, I agree with Dana. You're an idiot. What's the point of posting this? Unless you're going to pull out, you're just showing weakness, and you're causing a, social media stuff for no reason.
Well, we've got some time to the fight. You're still looking at 1 month. I don't know if that's going to...
Yeah, usually those cuts, it takes about 6 weeks just to heal. People usually don't spar for 6 weeks because of those cuts.
I guess if you're Umar, you're the backup, you're pretty much ready to go.
You're licking your lips.
You're licking your lips and saying, this might be my time. And you're deep into training camp. I know these guys don't stop anyway. But talking about another fight that made the round this week, and a lot of MMA fans are disagreeing with, is Khalil Roundtree fighting Alex Pierea.
UFC 307 in Utah. Alex Pierea is somewhat saving the card because it is a pretty dead card. There hasn't been a lot of rumors or a lot of fighters that are clamoring to fight in Utah. But Alex Pierea puts his hand up, the company guy. But it was weird that he's fighting Khalil Roundtree because Ankalaev got confirmed for a fight in Abu Dhabi against Rakic. But you thought Ankalaev, if there was going to be his next fight, would be a title fight.
This is my theory. I don't think the UFC want Ankalaev being anywhere near a title opportunity. I think they're sick of these Dagestani Russian fighters being at the top of the divisions everywhere. Maybe he's hard to deal with like a Muhammad Mokaev, but for him to not get the opportunity doesn't really make sense when you give it to someone like Khalil Roundtree. Well, and Jamal Hill took to social media and said, this really doesn't make sense. Why is he getting an opportunity? Firstly, he's popped for steroids not even 6 months ago.
He's ingested a banned substance.
Okay, yeah, so that was a bit of an iffy. But
he's still currently suspended. Right at the moment, he is suspended from fighting. I think by Utah, his suspension is up.
But a lot of other fighters have said you're really diminishing title opportunities if you're giving it to people that don't deserve it, that aren't in the top 5 rankings.
Well, Steve Err said back in March. UFC in Brazil, 301.
February, yeah.
No, it was past April, whatever it is. He was the ranked 10 having his title fight. And people were saying, listen, he does not deserve a title fight. Khalil Roundtree, yes, he's on a 5-fight win streak and he's one of the best strikers. He's one of the best UFC fighters in that division. He hasn't earned a title shot. Unless you beat a top 5 ranked opponent, I don't see you as being a legitimate title contender. Jamal, yes, I understand there's other people in that. Jan Blachowicz has said they're trying to protect Alex Pierea because Blachowicz, he had a split decision loss to Pierea, probably does deserve a rematch as well. And a title fight as well. But it just makes no sense. There's 2 or 3 fighters above him that deserve a title shot. And the fact that Ankalaev is having a fight that's not for the title, maybe they are protecting Pierea.
Ankalaev took to Twitter again, and I think that might be his manager taking to Twitter for him. But he pretty much said, listen, put anyone in front of me, I'm going to smash. I think I still do deserve a title shot. If you had to put your mind inside the matchmakers and what made them make this match, you got to look, like you said, Khalil Roundtree, 5-fight win streak. He's beat 3 Glory kickboxers. Alex Pierea is kind of the final boss when it comes to Glory kickboxers. So again,
There is somewhat of a storyline.
There's a story to make for it. But when you talk to Khalil Roundtree, and recently he came out and said, I'm not much of a wrestler. You look at all my past fights, I've never taken anyone down. I stand up and strike. He's pretty much said, I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose fighting Alex Pierea because I don't want to wrestle. I'm going to stand up and strike him. Alex Pierea is the best striker in the UFC right now, especially in that weight division. And I don't know if you just saw the new EA rankings. He's gone to 100 in striking. He's now an A-list striker. So,
well, this is the black magic working at its best because Alex Pierea somehow, against all of his opponents, they've all come out pre-fight and said, I'm going to strike with Alex Pierea. I don't want to wrestle him. I can wrestle him, but I don't want to. I want to strike with him. And now this is Khalil Roundtree as well, who's saying, look, I maybe could take him down, but I want to put on a show for the fans. I want to strike with him. Khalil, just don't do it. You're going to lose this battle. He's got the best left hook, and he can leg kick. That leg kick is nasty, so just don't do it.
Yuri Prohaska thought he would stand up and strike with him. You saw it happen to him, and I think it's just going to repeat. But it begs the question, and it's like you said, is this the UFC protecting Alex Pierea now? He's that much of a money draw. He's that much of, an MMA draw right now. Is this protecting him, feeding him another win?
I think they're protecting him in the sense that they are trying to build him up for that heavyweight fight, and they don't want him to lose his aura by having a loss in the light heavyweight division. But you can't really say it's protecting him because he's taken so many fights on short notice against top guys. Taking that Yuri fight on short notice, that's not protecting him at all. Yuri's a top fighter, one of the most dangerous people in the division, a former champion. So if you're going to protect him, you're choosing a convenient time to say this. Yes, I understand that they're maybe trying to build him up for a heavyweight fight, but to say that they've been protecting him, maybe in this instance, yes, but overall, no way.
Yeah, I think it's just the quality of opponent that people are questioning. I think he walks past Khalil Roundtree fairly easily, and then you're probably talking that he takes another fight in December potentially. I know he's taken some time off, but he does. Maybe he even looks at that February Australian card that he says he wants to fight in Australia. The guy wants to stay active, so maybe this is their way of keeping him active.
And he's someone that does deserve at least somewhat of a bit of a help. He has been so good to the company. Why can't the company return the favor?
Yeah.
If Khalil Roundtree doesn't deserve the title shot, it's still something that maybe sells better in Utah. There's a whole bunch of things the matchmakers could be putting into perspective. And, maybe they offered the fight to other people as well. You don't know. I mean, maybe need a documentary to see how the interworkings of this fight did happen. But Khalil Roundtree versus Pierea is the fight, and they're not going to change it.
I want to get into something I saw online was Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland always making headlines, whether inside or outside the octagon. This time, he's revealed that Megan Fox has DM'd him, and he's beefing a little bit with Megan Fox. Okay, we're talking about an A-list celebrity actor beefing with Sean Strickland. This is because Sean Strickland went at Megan Fox, went at Machine Gun Kelly, previously in the build-up to his last few fights. Megan Fox sent him a DM, and he said it's not that type of DM. She hasn't slid into his DMs like that. But it was a DM saying, you're the reason my kids are getting bullied at school because you've gone at the way that they dress. Yeah, I think they're not trans, but they're dressing like women. And I also cop a bit of hate online because of you. Sean Strickland said, listen, love, okay, fair enough. I'll stop. I won't go at you too much. But you also bring it upon yourself. Sean Strickland, not to shy away from a beef. Who's in the wrong here, Megan Fox or Sean Strickland?
Sean Strickland's definitely not in the wrong. I mean, how can you blame him for bullying your kids? Okay, I'm sure your kids, it's not good that they're getting bullied. I don't condone them getting bullied, but they're probably getting bullied for some other reason. I'm sure they're bringing it upon themselves in some way. They're doing something that has caused other people to say something about it. You can't blame Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland is an internet personality. I think Charles Barkley has said it before as well. He's not a role model. He's not claiming to be a role model. Yeah. So don't try and look to him for answers or, to solve your problems.
But, it's one of the funniest things because Sean Strickland has gone on a run where he's beefing with absolutely anybody and everybody. Whether it's fighters, Dricus Du Plessis, Israel Adesanya, we know those. They've been some great beefs. But outside the octagon, you're talking Machine Gun Kelly, Jake Paul, the Nelk Boys, Sneeko. Now Megan Fox. It's showing that Sean Strickland is becoming bigger than the UFC.
Well, he's also very social media savvy. Yeah. I think he put up a tweet the other day saying this is the best way to get engagement. He goes, I could write a tweet in a normal way about politics, or I can demonize and call someone a communist or whatever it is, and that's going to get trending. That's going to be the one that's... So he knows what he's doing. He's not stupid.
Well, sometimes the UFC has to pull him aside. He spoke of an instance where Dana White said, listen, Sean, I will never tell you what to say. You know me. But you're promoting a fight in Canada. Canada have strict hate speech laws. So whatever you're going to say, be careful because you don't want to end up in jail.
That's why he refrained from using the F word at the press conference.
Yeah,
I think he said, I haven't used the F word today. They said, Sean, you've swore multiple times. He said, no, not that F word.
Yeah.
I'm on my best behavior. So he's operating in a very thin line because the UFC is a very special organization. So we don't let them talk.
We spoke about Drickus being one of the best trash talkers in the UFC. Who's up there with him? Is Sean Strickland one of the better trash talkers in the UFC?
Yeah, he's definitely up there. No one's going to beat Conor. Conor's always going to be number one.
Conor right now, yeah.
I think Islam's actually very underrated because I feel like he doesn't mean to throw shade at people, but he just does it in the most
Islam
way.
comes in the most honest way. He'll say, Tony Ferguson, you should retire, bro. You know what I mean? Like, he just comes and with complete honesty because he can back it up. The guy can say whatever he wants.
I think Bilal Muhammad's at the very bottom of the rankings. He tried his best in Manchester, but it just didn't hit the mark. It's very clear.
You got Sean Strickland being honest, going at every government he's ever been to. He's gone at the Australian government. He's gone at the Canadian government. But Drake's 2 pluses makes people cry.
That's the ultimate one.
That's the ultimate win. You know what I mean? If you make someone cry, you've pretty much broken him. He's 2 for 2. Make you cry, lose the fight.
And then I think if we're going to throw other people into this conversation, you got to include Jon Jones. Him and Daniel Cormier are at their best.
Yeah.
Jon Jones is a great trash talker because he can back it up.
Exactly right. He can back it up, and he's so sly with it. He comes across as this good guy persona where he's actually kind of evil, Jon Jones.
And it is true that his future opponent, likely Tom Aspinall, he is improving in his trash talk. In the octagon after the fight in Manchester, John, I got nothing against you. I just think I can beat you.
He's even taken the social media videos online. I don't know if you've seen his YouTube channel. He's now looking for Jon Jones. he's going to different locations, going to the pools. He's going to different gyms, looking for Jon Jones because he's saying he's ducking him.
Tom Aspinall's best quote the last week: "I'm going to make you retire one way or the other." So Tom Aspinall is improving. I don't think he's there in the trash talk list yet. I think he's too nice. I think he's got to somehow feed into that bit more of a savage a bit, but he's improving. He is improving.
Last one in terms of fight news wrap up. After UFC Perth, we sang the praises of Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker versus Mateusz Gamrot. Probably the fight of the night. We all agree upon that. Dana White thought it was the fight of the night. Now what's next for Dan Hooker?
Well, he's likely pushed... he has pushed up into the top 5.
Yeah.
He's called out people. He said he wants to fight for the BMF. He says he wants to fight Conor McGregor. But he's been told by the UFC they're going to work on a fight with Charles Olivera, which is the bleach blonde baddies fighting each other. It is a top fight. I don't know who wins that fight. I think Olivera is the more, veteran fighter, the better all-round fighter. But Dan Hooker was very surprising. I don't think personally that he won the fight on the weekend, but I'm not a judge, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, those judges were a bit off on the weekend, but I don't think... Look, I think the way his takedown defenses against Gamrot, I think, is what won him the fight and what swayed the judges in his favour. I will say his attitude right now is give me absolutely anyone and everyone. He's talking Ahmad Sarukian. He's saying, give me Conor McGregor. Give me a BMF. I'll fight anyone in the division. He just wants to fight. He's had a long time outside the octagon. It was great to see him back in there. The guy loves this shit. You got to be a certain type of crazy to be in there. I love it like Dan Hooker. And the thing is, tattooed Dan Hooker, I think he's a different beast right now. Him versus Charles Oliveira, the tattooed blondes, that will be a fight people will pay to see.
Well, I think they both need a fight to kind of continue their ascension back into that title picture. Dan Hooker back into the top 5, I think, for the first time since 2020. So it's a great welcome back, shows his longevity. Charles Oliveira, who's been a top 5 ranked fighter, I think, his whole career, they need something to push themselves back up. I don't think either of them can fight Arman or Islam yet. And Dustin Poirier makes no sense for a fight either. So the only fight that makes sense is them versing each other.
Yeah, I think they'll get it done. Hunter Campbell was there over the weekend. I think he was shaking hands, doing some deals after the fights were done. That's the big question. What's happening with Dan Hooker? What's happening with Israel Adesanya? I guess we'll have to wait and see. I want to play a game with you, Nick, because I know this is Dana White's game, right? But this is Dana White's. You put everyone in a room with Jon Jones. Let's see who comes out. I'm going to give you 4 fighters. You tell me who comes out of the room alive, okay? Who will make it out of this room? Eddie Hall, Jon Jones, Brock Lesnar, or Francis Ngannou?
Well, 3 of them are real fighters. One is just a strong man, and that's Eddie Hall.
But, I mean, he's gone up against 2 flyweights and built the fuck out of him.
I have seen the footage of Eddie Hall.
Yeah.
He does have some underrated moves against flyweights.
And you're talking about some serious weight. Okay, so that's an immediately cancel out Eddie Hall.
Eddie Hall.
When you're talking about other guys.
Because I think Brock Lesnar would maul him, Francis Ngannou would kill him, and Jon Jones is the best the best fighter of all time. And we're talking heavyweight Jon Jones in this room.
Yeah, heavyweights.
Heavyweight Jon Jones in this room, I'd say he's the favourite to make it out alive. If we're gonna go in order, who's getting knocked out first? Eddie Hall's getting knocked out first. Then Francis Ngannou, Brock Lesnar, I think that's interesting. Both different styles.
I'm going with Brock Lesnar. I'm going with current Viking Brock Lesnar. The Brock Lesnar that fought Mark Hunt. You're talking about NCAA champion, UFC champion. Francis Ngannou, great. We haven't seen him in a long time. I know he's gone into boxing, but again, you saw it happen against Tyson Fury. You saw it happen against Anthony Joshua. So I don't know about striking-wise. I'm just going to take Brock Lesnar in that regard.
I did see John Jones actually comment on this post and says, I need to know the dimensions of this room.
Yeah.
If it is a bigger room, we're going to have to probably give the advantage to Ngannou because he could probably use his striking and a bit more. If it's going to be a wrestling battle, we'll go with Brock Lesnar. But if it's striking, I think Francis Ngannou makes it here. And then if we're going to go the last two, Lesnar and Ngannou versus John Jones, I'm with Dana White. John Jones is making out of this room.
Yeah.
He's just the full, complete fighter. He can do whatever he wants. He can strike, he can wrestle, and he's a psycho. He's got a screw loose. Whether it be, on drugs or not on drugs, on steroids, not on steroids, John Jones is the best fighter of all time. And with these four people in a room, John Jones is making it out alive.
Yeah, I got it. You got to commend Dana White. He's been saying that. Put the baddest people in a room with John Jones. John Jones is walking out. Like you said, striking, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. The guy's an absolute freak, and that's what he has on all these other fighters, especially the ones that are going into this room. Brock Lesnar, his wrestling is just as good. His striking is a lot better. Francis Ngannou, not the complete fighter. Again, a great striker, a good wrestler. But again, John Jones just exceeds everyone in this room, and he walks out of there.
And in this room, is it a free-for-all to fatal four-way?
It's a fatal four-way, every man for himself.
If it's every man for himself, John Jones, I think he's got the fight IQ and the ability to come out of this room alive.
Okay, there you go. Now, we're going to boxing news, Nick. Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson.
Back on. It's back on. The press conference was on the weekend, and it looked
pretty fiery. I mean, Mike Tyson getting there, push and shove. Jake Paul throwing jabs about him being an old person. You had your menopause battle. I don't know if that's something they go at, Jake Paul, because you're a young bull and you're taking advantage of an old guy and you're going at him for being old. You're the one taking the fight. Again, no doubt this is going to sell massively for Netflix. Everyone's going to watch this fight. But at the end of the day, is this the right move for Jake Paul?
No, it's not. I mean, you got to fight a boxer. You're trying to position yourself as a boxer. We spoke last week about how he wants to fight in the Olympics. I don't know how fighting a 60-year-old retired boxer at heavyweight is going to do justice for your career.
And
it doesn't make sense.
Bisping called him an absolute disgrace.
Yeah, Michael Bisping could just be being a hater there, but
also, Matt, he might be wanting a boxing fight.
Yeah, I don't know. Michael Bisping does see the money fight against Jake Paul. But Mike Tyson, it draws numbers. You can't go against Jake Paul because he is the internet sensation. He is the social media sensation. He knows what draws numbers. And Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul is going to draw numbers. But hey, is it an exhibition or is it a proper fight? Have they actually ruled that even yet?
I think it is a professional bout.
So it's going to go to their records.
Bout, yeah. Even though it should be an exhibition, I think that's what MVP Promotions, Jake Paul Promotion.
They're not wearing headgears. They're not wearing, because that was Mike Tyson's last fight. I think he wore a headgear.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's going to be headgears. No headgears, no padding. But look, at the end of the day, Mike Tyson, this is going to be a money grab fight. The highlight of the press conference, Mike Tyson getting a bit lippy, Mike Tyson pushing Jake Paul. If there's a God, it'll be an upset and Mike Tyson knocks out Jake Paul. I want to see it happen.
I don't know if that's going to be evidence of God, but I think it's definitely something that Mike Tyson, people want to see him win.
Of course.
And Mike Tyson, him pushing him, it did seem a bit fake. It looked a bit orchestrated. I don't want to say it was,
like I said, these guys got to sell the fight.
They got to try their best. But for me, my biggest takeaway from this press conference, the acne on Jake Paul. If you looked at close-up photos of his face, there were pimples everywhere. They looked like there was scarring.
It could either be, look, he just came off a very hot, steamy, vacation in Paris.
Well, what could be the reason for the acne? I mean,
or he's taking copious amounts of steroids. You saw he has to make weight to 100 kilos, 95 plus kilos to be a heavyweight. Jake Paul doesn't usually fight at that. You saw how quickly he put on this amount of weight. I don't think he's doing it naturally. I think he's going the Yannick Sinner route.
Well, Yannick Sinner only had, I think, 1/1,000,000th of a gram of anabolic steroids in his system. Jake Paul, I think, has millions of grams of protein in his system. Jake Paul, I don't understand. If he could come out and address the reasons why he could have this acne, like you said, it could be hot and sweaty in Paris. Sweat is known to cause acne, but steroids is also known to cause acne. So if he could come out and just clear up that confusion, that would be great.
I'm not going to go at him. The guy's putting on a show. If you got to use steroids, go at it. Just be open and honest, because there's a lot of kids that follow you, Jake, and I don't think it's probably natural to get there at that weight. But trying a new segment this week, we're doing MMA hot takes. We're leaving an open hotline for you to call and leave your MMA hot take. So call the number on screen and let us know your MMA hot take. We've got 3 calls coming in. Let's see what they have to say. I'm looking forward to the hot take.
Should be fun.
My hot MMA take is, why does Bruce Buffer have to go on for 15 minutes before every fight? He just tells us shit we already know. you know, and we know he thinks he's so cool in his like costume suits, but he's just a wank. Like, I swear he's got a little bit of makeup on. You know, he talks to everyone like he's idiots. Like, oh, look at me for a few seconds. I'm going to talk for a bit. Oh, look, there's a fighter there. That's his name. There's a fighter. He's just like, we already know. Could you please stop yelling? Like, you just, you know, you also know he's a nepo baby. Like, oh, my brother's in the industry. I reckon he can get me a job. This is how you do it. You talk really loud and really slow. Like, whole family of worthless jobs. Like, I don't care. Do you care? Does anyone really care? Let's just get to the fight. Like, you're stalling. This is a whole family of stallers. I don't care. Get this guy out of here. He hasn't got any talent. He just talks about it. I hate him. Yeah, that's
This guy really hates Bruce Buffer.
I mean, this is uncalled for. This is the hottest of hot takes. I mean, Bruce Buffer, he's a legend in the sport. If there is a fight card without Bruce Buffer on there, that is like the aura's out of the card. It's gone.
Well, like you said, his brother is Let's Get Ready to Rumble. These guys were long lost brothers. The UFC's needs a Let's Get Ready to Rumble.
And it's got its time.
And it's got its time. However, I understand his point that it might drag on a little bit because you're there, you're in the arena. Between every fight, you're talking between walkouts, between, you know, Bruce Buffer giving the address, you're talking 20, 30 minutes.
It doesn't matter. It's part of the presentation.
Yeah, and you're right, it is part of the presentation. Me personally, I love Bruce Buffer. Nice guy. You see him outside.
In person, he's a great guy. Very genuine, genuine in his approach to people. And without him, what would they do? You want to just say, oh, we got John Jones, Daniel Cormier, let's fight.
And who else would you get? Give us another alternative. Is there, you know, who else is there?
Samantha
Irvin? You want to get someone from the WWE?
Have you watched WWE? They get shit on all the time.
They had Charlie Caruso do the fight night. She stood in, she did very well, but she's no Bruce Buffer. You know, Bruce Buffer, I think he's now synonymous with the it's time. When WWE want to build someone for announcing, they go, we need our own Bruce Buffer. Bruce Buffer is the standard of announcers right now across the world of combat sports. So I understand you might find it a little bit annoying. I understand you might say it might drag out a little bit. But Bruce Buffer is the greatest announcer of all time.
I mean, what does this guy want? Does he want the fighters to introduce themselves? Like,
does he want everyone to have their own individual announcer?
That wouldn't be too bad. If you get like a Paul Heyman for every fighter, that's not the worst.
Everyone has their own manager that maybe trash talks for him as well.
I think that's an option for a replacement. If they're going to replace Bruce Buffer ever, Paul Heyman can step in and throw the fighters.
Bruce Buffer can't do it forever. He's going to have a point where they retire. The person that has to replace Bruce Buffer, I feel sorry for you.
You don't want to. You don't want to be in that position.
It's like Ray Warren in the NRL trying to...
And whoever's commentating now sucks. Just because you're following Ray Warren. It just happens.
So, again, I think he's gone a bit too hard there on Bruce Buffer. I think he's the greatest announcer of all time. I think he's surpassed his brother. Okay?
No.
The brother's iconic. Michael Buffer. But Bruce Buffer, you're talking about reps right now.
How many movies has Bruce Buffer been in?
Oh, look, Michael Buffer, he hasn't, he just did the Zohan.
No, he's been in other ones. He's probably been in other ones.
Regardless, Michael Buffer just does the big Saudi cards. He just takes the big cash. Bruce Buffer does every single card. He's going to Perth. He's going to Abu Dhabi. He's going to Saudi Arabia. He's doing all of them. Las Vegas. Bruce Buffer is the standard bearer for announcers right now, and I won't take any Bruce Buffer slander. Second hot take coming through from another caller.
Hey guys, I've got a hot take. I think Izzy should be ranked higher on the GOAT status list than Volkanovski, mainly because he was the most active UFC champ in history. He had more title defenses than Volkanovski. He reclaimed his title against Pierea, and we haven't seen him get knocked out cold ever, whereas we've seen, Volkanovski, unfortunately, get that. I think he's considered more of a GOAT than Volkanovski, and I'm curious to hear what you say.
You can make the argument that Izzy is higher on the GOAT list than Volkanovski, but after losing to Pierea, they're losing to Strickland, they're losing to Drakus, that's probably worse than Volkanovski. And Volkanovski, to his credit, did beat Jose Aldo, did beat Max Holloway, and he's known as one of the greatest featherweights of all time. And his title reign, I think, as a whole was better. Yes, Adesanya had more title defenses, but who did he verse in those title defenses? Robert Whittaker twice. I think he versed Anderson Silva. I don't know if it was for the title. But his career as a whole, I just think isn't as impressive as a Volkanovski.
I want to agree with the caller because right now, Israel Adesanya and Volk have dropped significantly in the pound-for-pound rankings. Adesanya right now is below Volk.
I think he's 10, Volk's 8.
If you're talking about activity as well, what's crazy to me is you've seen this stat. Usman, Volk, and Israel Adesanya, both 3-1 in their last 4 fights.
1-3.
Both 1-3 in their last 4 fights. which is crazy because at a time where these guys were the best in the UFC in their respective divisions. But if you're talking about long reigns, right, I don't think Adesanya dominated the featherweight division like Volk did. I don't think Adesanya dominated his division like Volk dominated the featherweight division. For Volk to do it as long as he did with the amount of title defenses that he did, again, you're talking beating Max Holloway twice. Three times. You're talking beating Max Holloway 3 times. You're going up against, tough opponents. Not to say that Izzy didn't do it, but I just think his reign has just been longer and better, and there's more of an aura legend around Volkanovski, and I think he commands more respect from other fighters.
And I don't like the argument of, Adesanya got his title back like he's a 2-time middleweight champion.
But he avenged that loss.
But it doesn't matter. I'd rather you just win the fight initially. Volkanovski just had the title for longer, had a longer continuous reign. I think I don't know if he beat Jose Aldo, but he's one of the longest reigning featherweight champions of all time.
Well, this is
just because you lost and won it back doesn't mean shit.
An easy way to put it to rest.
It's in the same year as well. He won it back in the same year. It's not like he won it 4 years later.
This caller, obviously he likes Israel Adesanya, he likes his fighter style. If you had to just pick which fighter you would rather be, Israel Adesanya or Volkanovski?
Volkanovski. Everyone loves Volkanovski. I'm pretty sure.
It's not about whether
most people hate Adesanya.
Which fighting style do you think is better? Adesanya, I think, is the better striker when it comes to English
you can make that argument. But as an all-round fighter, Volkanovski is much better. I think as a more well-rounded fighter, Volkanovski can strike. He's a better wrestler. He's a better grappler. And you saw him go up in weight against Islam and put him to the test.
Well,
that itself is what makes you a good fighter.
The fact that Adesanya went up and really couldn't cut it in that light heavyweight division, I think shows why Volk can be placed as a higher on the greatest of all time list. I think Izzy's a GOAT. I think he's one of the GOATs.
He's a Hall of Famer, not a GOAT.
Definitely a Hall of Famer. But I just personally think, and this might be an Aussie bias, that Volk is just a better all-round fighter, and that's why he is the GOAT.
He's up there with the greatest middleweights of all time, but the greatest fighters of all time. I'm sorry. I might be recency biased, but I'm going to give you a pass. Has Adesanya been a pound-for-pound number one? Volkanovski has. I'm not sure, but Volkanovski's been pound-for-pound number one. Whether, you agree with Dana White that that's a shit list or not, but Volkanovski's much better than
Adesanya goes on another run and reclaims a light heavyweight title, does that push him up as better than Volk all time?
No, not anymore. Unless he goes up in weight and then tries to beat someone.
You're telling me if he doesn't go on another reign, they're both at a very similar point right now. They're both trying to reclaim either featherweight gold or in this instance, light heavyweight gold. Okay, they're both at the same point. They both had unbelievable reigns in their division, and now they're at a point where they're trying to regain.
Well, considering that Israel Adesanya lost his fight to get back to the title, and Volkanovski has a fight, his next fight will be for the title.
I'd say in a better position.
But most likely because he's in a better position. Okay. So Volkanovski there.
All right, and let's go to the last hot take of the day.
Hi there, boys. Fat Wang here. Long-time Instagram reel watcher, first-time caller. I just want to gain some perspective here on what you boys think of what the most underrated division is in the UFC, because honestly, my take is that it's flyweight. Every time there's a boring fight like Makaev and Karp, everyone's immediately, we should cut the division, it's boring, this, that. But then there are fights like over what happened at the weekend with Kai Kara-France, he's knocking motherfuckers out, So I just don't understand what the problem is. When has Brendan Moreno ever disappointed us in a fight? When is Kai Kara-France? He's always ready to bring, And even our boy, Steve Erceg, he could still be a contender. He's young. Michael Scott's still got it in him. He just needs to stop making stupid decisions in the ring. And, a point that I can make here is that Karp versus Makaev, people can shit on it all they want and say, flyweight's not interesting anymore because of that fight. Well, who was drinking the juice when they were beefing, when they were going to get into it? So, people can say they're not interested in flyweight, but then, what's this? But, that's what I say. Freaking flyweight's underrated. Yeah.
Look, Eddie, it's underrated. It's underrated, yes, in the sense of it's an open division, anyone can go for the title. But if we're talking pure star power, and am I looking forward to watching the fight? No, it's not. It's underrated.
To Fat Wang's point, what is the most underrated division in the UFC? We're not talking about a rated division, because I would say middleweight, rated.
Somewhat.
Okay. And light heavyweight with Adesanya, and light heavyweight with Alex Pierea, rated. They're always putting on knockout fights, whatever it be. But these lower weight divisions, then you start talking about whether or not they're underrated. And I agree with him. I think flyweight is underrated. These guys are putting on shows. You saw what Kai Kara France did. Okay, yes, you might get the odd Marmon Mackay versus Manel Cape fight, and everyone's talking to cancel them. But at the end of the day, they go out there to entertain. They're one of the most technical fighters. They might not have the star power, but they go out there and want to entertain and put on knockouts, put on technical fights with submissions and whatnot. I think when you see an Alexander Pantoja fight, when you see a Steve Erceg fight, these guys are putting on technical shows and they're entertaining to watch.
Flyweight and bantamweight are automatically the two most overrated divisions in the UFC.
You're telling me Sugar Sean versus Cheeto Vera wasn't an entertaining fight?
It was entertaining,
These guys were just throwing...
But that doesn't mean the build-up to the fight. Luckily, Cheeto was getting the home crowd advantage from all the bloody Latinas in Miami. Other than that, I wasn't really looking forward to it that much.
But at the
seasonal,
to his point, they're underrated. They don't get the credit that they deserve. Sugar Sean, he's putting on striking clinics, right? And it's good to watch. It's fun to watch. That is the sport, essentially.
The sport is, as the weight goes up, it gets more interesting. That's all it is. And flyweight is the bottom of the rankings. They're the lowest people, and that's why they're the least entertaining. And that's why, honestly, they're not underrated. You can maybe make the case that they're rated because they can put on some entertaining fights and it's an open division. But mostly they're overrated. And then Sugar Sean's division is closely following that as being overrated. And Volkanovski, luckily, him and Jose Aldo, Max Holloway, Conor McGregor, they've made that division entertaining for the Raiders. But other than that, they're going to have a slow decline as well.
I would say the most underrated division in the UFC is the lightweight division.
Yeah.
And that's Islam. Islam, as a champion, consistently puts on great fights.
Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, they're entertaining fighters. They put outside the octagon as well. They've got character.
And they've had Volk go up and also put on entertaining fights. So I think it's just been very entertaining from their perspective as lightweights. They're underrated. Some definite hot takes there. Make sure you're leaving your voicemails at the number on the screen and in the description. Let us know your MMA hot takes for the week, and we'll be sure to play them and answer them. That's all for us at Trash Talk this week. Make sure you like and subscribe at Kairouz Bros on YouTube, and give us a follow on at Jon-Bernard K over on Instagram where the clips are. Thank you for always tuning in. Back to you in the studio, Ryan.